A soft whimper fractured the pre-dawn stillness of Laurelhurst Park. Detective Sarah Connor halted mid-step, her breath catching in the misty air. The beam of her flashlight sliced through the fog, revealing only silhouettes of skeletal trees and wet leaves. Then movement. A low growl vibrated from beneath the overgrown brush beside the playground structure. She called her team over with a hushed urgency, but her voice barely broke the weighted silence. There, curled beneath the metal frame, was a sight that stopped her cold. A large German shepherd coat, caked in mud, and dried blood lay protectively around a small girl, no older than 7. The dog's amber eyes locked onto Sarah's unblinking warning. The girl clung to his fur face, streaked with dirt, and tears, her small frame wrapped in a raincoat several sizes too large. Lily Reynolds. Sarah's voice softened to a whisper as she crouched, careful not to advance. The girl didn't respond right away. Her gaze was far off, drifting somewhere unreachable. But then she leaned closer to the German shepherd and whispered something into his ear. The dog's posture shifted, not quite relaxed, but no longer on the brink of attack. Sarah noticed the way he waited, every muscle coiled, but restrained, as if for a command. Mommy said Atlas would keep me safe, until the good people came. Lily finally said, voice barely audible. Are you the good people? The words pierced through Sarah's seasoned exterior, anchoring her breath in her chest. Around her, paramedics prepared to move in, but Atlas blocked their path, positioning his wounded body between the girl and the strangers. Even bleeding, even exhausted, his instincts were sharp. This was not just protection. This was loyalty, forged in something deeper. Sarah recognized the posture instantly. 2 decades with K9 units had taught her to read the signals. This dog wasn't resisting. He was awaiting authorization. From her, and from Lily. Atlas remained still, but alert, his flank rising and falling with labored breaths. The child he shielded, Lily, had the hollow gaze of trauma, her small body rigid from more than just cold. Her dirt-smudged face turned once more toward Sarah as the detective knelt a little closer, staying outside the dog's strike range. You're safe now, Sarah said gently, her voice low and steady. No one's going to hurt you. Atlas is doing a wonderful job. At the sound of his name, Atlas's ears twitched. Lily reached up, trembling fingers curling into his fur. He knows what to do, she said. Mommy taught him everything, even how to listen when I whisper. The dog shifted slightly, muscles relaxing just enough to let the paramedics take a cautious step forward. Sarah's breath trembled, not from fear, but awe. This wasn't a dog simply acting on instinct. It was a soldier executing his orders. He's not just being protective, she murmured to Officer Jenkins beside her. He's trained. Look at how he places his weight, the way his head moves. He's checking sectors, not just watching. The paramedics moved slowly, pausing at intervals, as if navigating a minefield. Still, Atlas didn't growl. Lily had whispered her approval, and that was enough for now. A medic knelt down, gauging Lily's condition. She's showing signs of dehydration, low body temperature. We need to get her warm. Sarah nodded, mind already spinning. 4 days missing. 2 bodies found at the Reynolds residence. Initial ruling murder-suicide. But now this. No. This wasn't a child running from a domestic tragedy. This was an escape. A retreat. And Atlas, the former K9 with a bullet scar and a loyalty that hadn't retired with his badge, had been more than a companion. He had been Lily's guardian, her lifeline through chaos. Something was terribly wrong with the official story. And this child, the one pressing her face into a dog's blood-matted coat, held the key to unraveling it. 5 days earlier, the Reynolds home had radiated the quiet warmth of routine. Emma Reynolds moved gracefully around the small kitchen, her focus split between a bubbling casserole and her daughter's chatter at the table. 7-year-old Lily sat cross-legged in her chair, tongue poking out in concentration as she sketched in her notebook. At her feet, Atlas lay like a stone sentinel, his eyes fixed on the child with unblinking intensity. Matthew Reynolds stood at the window, shoulders tense beneath his flannel shirt. "That car's been parked across the street all afternoon," he muttered. Emma glanced at him, but said nothing. She had grown accustomed to moments like these, his wary eyes, the edge in his voice. War had left its fingerprints on her husband's shadows that even time hadn't erased. But this time, something in his tone made her pulse skip. "Black sedan?" she asked softly. Matthew nodded. She didn't argue. Instead, she walked to him and gently placed her hand on his arm. Probably just the new neighbors. "Let's eat. It's getting cold." But in her gut, she knew. The car wasn't from next door. Dinner passed with practiced calm. Emma asked Lily about her drawing. Lily proudly held it up, a careful pencil sketch of Atlas, curled beside her bed-standing guard. Emma smiled, though her stomach churned. Then it happened. Atlas's ears shot forward. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Emma and Matthew locked eyes. "Lily Bear," Emma said, her voice as light as air. "Remember our special hide-and-seek game? I think tonight's a good night to play." Confusion crossed Lily's face, then a flash of recognition. "You and Atlas." "Just like we practiced," Emma whispered, slipping something into the pocket of Lily's pajamas. "Your special medicine. And Mr. Whiskers. Don't forget him." Matthew was already at the kitchen drawer, retrieving his service pistol. "Go. Now." Emma helped Lily into her raincoat and knelt to kiss her forehead. Her voice cracked as she gave the command. "Atlas, protect." The German Shepherd snapped to attention, all warmth gone from his frame. From the front of the house came the sound of shattering glass. Chaos had arrived. Matthew moved like a man reborn into battle. No hesitation, no fear. He took up a position between his family and the hallway, weapon raised, every muscle braced for impact. Emma clutched Lily tightly one last time. "Atlas knows the way," she whispered. "He'll get you to safety." "Mommy, come with me," Lily begged, her voice cracking. Emma pressed her locket into Lily's hand, the metal warm from her skin. "Mommy and Daddy have to stop the bad men from following you. Remember the special words." Lily nodded, barely able to speak. "Atlas Guard. Atlas Guide." Emma kissed her once hard, like she could pour every ounce of love into that moment, and pushed her gently toward the pantry. Behind the shelves lay the passageway they had built into the house's foundation when they entered witness protection. A lifeline buried behind cereal boxes and canned peaches. The front door burst open. Matthew shouted, gunfire erupted, and Lily screamed as Atlas shoved her into the dark passage. He wedged his powerful frame behind her, pushing her forward through the narrow tunnel. His breath came in sharp pants. The tight corridor scratched at his sides. Behind them, the sounds of violence twisted into chaos. Crashing furniture shouted threats. Her mother's scream, a man yelling a thud. Then silence. Atlas didn't stop. He navigated the tight space with grim precision, nudging Lily onward until they reached the storm drain behind the property, a cold metal tunnel opening into a world now stripped of everything she knew. They emerged into the night as rain began to fall. Lily stood frozen, shivering in soaked pajamas and oversized raincoat. Atlas, bleeding from a shallow wound on his flank, nudged her forward. When she didn't move, he gently tugged her sleeve until she slipped her arms through properly. Then, he led her away from the house, the gunshots, the life she would never return to. They were alone now, but they had a mission. Protect the girl. Wait for the good people. The first night in the park was agony wrapped in silence. Rain fell in sheets, soaking the leaves and turning the ground to mud. Atlas guided Lily to a grove of tightly clustered trees where the canopy thinned the rain. It wasn't shelter. It was survival by inches. She huddled against the trunk of an old maple, shaking violently. "I want Mommy," she whispered, her breath fogging in the cold air. Atlas pressed against her, his warmth a living blanket. His flank throbbed from the graze wound, but his eyes never closed. Every rustle in the darkness drew his ears. Every footstep in the distance sent his hackles twitching. Sirens howled in the distance. Atlas didn't move. He'd been trained to wait to judge. The good people weren't here yet. Lily drifted in and out of sleep fever, beginning to bloom in her small body. Each time she stirred, she found Atlas there, his broad head nestled close, his eyes locked on the shadows. By morning, the fog hung low and still. Atlas rose stiffly, pain etched into every movement, and nudged Lily gently. She stirred, murmuring through chapped lips, "I'm thirsty." Her raincoat hung off her like a shroud, and her cheeks were flushed. Atlas recognized the signs. He nudged her under a maintenance shed near the park's edge, dry, concealed, just large enough for a child to curl up in. Then he left. 20 minutes later, he returned, soaked and panting, his coat dripping pond water. He lay beside Lily and allowed her to sip the droplets that clung to his fur. It wasn't much, but it was enough to swallow the tiny pill Emma had tucked into her pocket. Her diabetes, the silent threat Emma had never stopped preparing for, was beginning to stir. Atlas licked her face once gently and settled beside her, the mud from the park mingling with the blood on his side. Even broken, he didn't stop. By midday, hunger gnawed at both of them. Lily was too weak to speak, her breath shallow and skin clammy beneath her soaked pajamas. Atlas, though limping, rose and vanished into the trees. When he returned, he carried a miracle between his teeth, half a sandwich scavenged from an unattended picnic basket. He laid it before Lily without taking a bite. Her eyes fluttered open, lips dry and cracked. "You need to eat too," she murmured, and broke the sandwich in half. Later, when Detective Connor would hear this detail, it would shatter her composure. As the sun dipped low behind the skeletal maples, Atlas stirred again. The cold was worsening, creeping into Lily's bones. Her raincoat was no match for Portland's autumn chill. Then flashing lights at the edge of the park. An ambulance. Paramedics tending to someone far away. Atlas made his move. 15 minutes later, he returned, dragging a silver thermal blanket in his jaws, likely fallen from the emergency vehicle. He lay it over Lily with trembling care, using his body to trap heat against her fragile frame. That night, wrapped in the emergency foil, Lily finally slept without shivering. One hand clutched Mr. Whiskers, her stuffed cat, the other gripped her mother's locket. Inside the toy, stitched by Emma's trembling fingers, lay a recording and a USB that would soon unravel a conspiracy. But for now, it was just a comfort, a scent of home, a symbol of hope. For 3 days, this became their rhythm. Atlas vanished and returned with food scraps, bits of water gathered from leaves, anything that could sustain the girl. His wound began to fester, but his resolve never faltered. Search parties passed within earshot, but Atlas never revealed them, not yet. He waited, watched. He had been trained to know when it was safe. Lily worsened. Her skin grew pale, and she began to drift, no longer fully waking. When their shelter began to flood under a storm's fury, Atlas moved her again, this time to the playground structure. There, beneath wet plastic and iron beams, he curled around her, his heart pounding against hers. And then she whispered, faint and trembling, "I need Mommy's special doctor." Atlas listened, and he decided it was time to call for help. Just before dawn on the 5th day, Atlas lifted his head to the wind ears angled toward the distant city hum. Then, for the first time since fleeing the Reynolds home, he barked not frantically, but in a deliberate rhythm. 3 sharp barks, a pause, 1 long howl, then silence. Again. It was the signal Emma had trained into him. The sound he was only to make when help was truly safe. Detective Sarah Connor, patrolling nearby, froze when she heard it. Her flashlight scanned the trees, landing at last on a flash of silver thermal foil, reflecting back at her like a cry in the dark. Then she saw them. Atlas stood between Lily and the light, wounded but unyielding. Only when Lily stirred and whispered, "Atlas, friend," did the dog finally step aside. Sarah dropped to her knees. "You did good," she whispered to the dog. "You kept her alive." Lily was rushed to Portland Memorial with signs of dehydration, hypoglycemia, and exposure. Through it all, Atlas remained beside her, growling any time hospital staff tried to separate them. When one nurse attempted to remove the dog, Lily panicked, clutching him with surprising strength. Sarah intervened. "The dog stays," she told the doctor. "He's the reason she's still breathing." Inside the glass-walled ER, Sarah watched Atlas curl beside Lily's hospital bed, his flank stitched, and cleaned, his gaze unblinking. Something wasn't right. The murder-suicide theory no longer held weight. Lily had whispered to Sarah that the bad men hurt Mommy and Daddy. That detail changed everything. Back at the Reynolds home, Sarah moved through the rooms alone. Photographs lined the hallway. Emma, Matthew, Lily, and always Atlas nearby. In Lily's bedroom, drawings covered the wall tunnels, dogs guarding beds, a house with 2 exits. Beneath one framed picture, Sarah found a hidden note. Handwritten. "If you're reading this, something has gone wrong. Trust no one. Blackwood knows. Evidence in whiskers. Atlas has protocol." Sarah's pulse quickened. She was no longer looking at a grieving family. She was standing inside the remnants of a war plan. And the battle had only just begun. Back at the hospital, Lily remained silent, her small hands gripping Mr. Whiskers and her mother's locket, as if they were the last threads holding her to the world. Sarah entered quietly, seating herself a careful distance away. "Hi, Lily," she said gently. "I'm Detective Sarah. I'm here to help you and Atlas." The girl studied her with the same cautious eyes that once belonged to Emma in those photographs. Atlas didn't growl. Instead, he simply watched, evaluating. After a long pause, Lily whispered, "Atlas likes you. He growls at the other police." Sarah gave a faint nod, noting that another sign the corruption Emma had hinted at was real. Lily hesitated, then spoke again. "Mommy said Atlas knows bad medicine from good medicine. He can smell it." Sarah glanced at Dr. Martinez, who had just entered. The pediatrician's expression tightened. "That's true," she said slowly. "He watches every injection. He even tensed when a new nurse gave her medication earlier, until she finished and walked away. It wasn't just protection anymore. It was surveillance. Atlas had been trained to recognize threats even inside hospitals. Sarah leaned forward slightly. "Lily, can you tell me about the bad men?" Lily looked down. "They hurt Mommy and Daddy. Atlas pulled me into the tunnel. We ran. He kept me warm. He found water. He remembered everything Mommy said." Sarah reached into her pocket. "I found this in your room. A note from your mom." Lily's eyes brightened. "Mommy left notes everywhere. She said it was our secret game." Sarah's heart cracked again. "Did she leave anything in Mr. Whiskers?" Lily nodded, then slowly, solemnly held out the stuffed cat. "She said to keep it safe until I found the good people." "Are you the good people?" Sarah swallowed the lump in her throat. "I'm trying to be." In the bathroom moments later, Sarah unstitched the seam along Mr. Whiskers' back. inside a USB drive and a small recorder. She pressed play. Emma Reynolds's voice came through, measured, tired, but unbroken. A confession of everything, the money laundering at Blackwood Enterprises, the evidence she'd collected, the witness protection breach, the final hope she placed in Atlas and Lily. Sarah listened in silence. The truth was more than heartbreaking. It was explosive. That evening, shadows fell thick over Portland Memorial as Sarah paced outside Lily's hospital room, her phone pressed tightly to her ear. "Chief, I've got evidence," she said. Emma Reynolds wasn't paranoid. She was hunted, and I think someone inside the department helped orchestrate it. Her voice lowered. "Lieutenant Morris is involved." The line went quiet. "Tread carefully," the chief warned. "This case has federal eyes on it now." Inside, Dr. Martinez noticed something subtle, a tightening of Atlas's posture, a twitch of his ears. "What is it, Lily?" she asked gently. "Atlas hears something," Lily whispered. "His special ears." Moments later, a man in uniform approached the nurse's station. "I need to check on the Reynolds girl," he said, flashing ID. "Lieutenant's orders." Dr. Martinez didn't hesitate. She returned to Lily's room, voice urgent. "We need to move you." Atlas rose, immediately standing between Lily and the door, like a fortress. Together they slipped through a side corridor into a service elevator. As they descended, a man's voice called after them. "Doctor." Below in the dim corridors near radiology, Lily clung to Atlas, trembling. "The bad men found us again," she whispered. Dr. Martinez picked up her phone. "Sarah, someone posing as an officer just tried to reach Lily. He had credentials, but something felt off. I moved them. We're in the reading room." "Good," Sarah said. "Stay put. I'm coming now." She arrived minutes later, badge raised, heart pounding. Atlas greeted her with a sharp glance, then stepped aside, his trust sealed. Sarah knelt. "We need to go somewhere safe." "Will you come with me?" The girl studied her, then nodded solemnly. "Atlas trusts you. Mommy said if the bad men found us, we had to hide until the special evidence was safe. There's more," she added, clutching Mr. Whiskers. "Atlas knows where it is." Then came the call over Sarah's radio: possible kidnapping in progress. Witness Lily Reynolds. "They're cutting off escape routes," Sarah said grimly. Dr. Martinez led them through winding basement halls toward the service dock. Just before the exit, a door swung open. Officer Jenkins stepped into view, hand drifting to his weapon. "Lieutenant Morris wants to speak with the girl." Sarah stepped between him and Lily. "She's under my protection now." Jenkins drew his gun, and Atlas moved like lightning. Atlas lunged with flawless precision, his jaws locking around Jenkins's gun wrist before the officer could even react. The weapon clattered to the floor as Jenkins screamed, struggling under the German Shepherd's unrelenting grip. Dr. Sarah called diving for the gun, while Dr. Martinez shielded Lily. "Call him off," Jenkins shouted, pinned against the wall. Lily stepped forward, her voice trembling, but clear. "Atlas, hold." The dog instantly shifted into stillness, maintaining control without harm, pure canine mastery. Sarah leveled the weapon. "Officer Jenkins, you're under arrest for attempted kidnapping and conspiracy." She cuffed him to a pipe, confiscating his radio, and turned to Dr. Martinez. "They'll find him. We need another way out." "My car's in the staff garage," the doctor replied. "If we get there, I can drive." "That's aiding a fugitive," Sarah warned. Dr. Martinez didn't flinch, and letting a child fall into the hands of her parents' killers would be aiding evil. They moved like phantoms through the hospital, ducking into storage closets, slipping past distracted officers. Twice, Atlas froze hackles, raised moments before footsteps echoed down side halls. He heard threats before humans ever could. By the time they reached the garage, Sarah's phone buzzed. "Unknown number. Morris called in the FBI. He's claiming you kidnapped the girl. Be careful. DM, David Martinez." The net was closing. In the back seat, Lily clutched Mr. Whiskers as Atlas curled beside her. Somewhere off-grid, Sarah said. No connections. I have a cabin Dr. Martinez offered. Mount Hood, under my maiden name. It's safe. Perfect, Sarah replied. But first we make a stop. A storage facility on Portland's edge. Nondescript. Anonymous. Sarah showed Lily a photo. Does this look familiar? Lily's eyes lit up. That's Mommy's treasure place. She said if anything happened, Atlas would remember. Inside, Sarah whispered, Atlas find Mommy's special place. The German Shepherd trotted off purposefully and stopped at Unit 247, sitting like a sentinel. What's the code? Sarah asked. Lily looked up. Atlas knows. Mommy taught him to show. Atlas, she said softly. Show the special numbers. He raised his paw and tapped 5 times against the keypad. The lock clicked. Inside boxes, records, photos, tapes, bribes. Blackwood's empire unraveled in ink and plastic. But just as Sarah lifted the files, Atlas growled. Outside, the unit footsteps echoed. Morris had found them. Footsteps closed in. Shadows lengthened under the flickering corridor lights. Sarah crouched beside Lily, whispering, We need a distraction. Can Atlas do that? Lily nodded, her small voice resolute. Atlas distraction. Go make noise far away. The German Shepherd slipped through the unit door like a shadow. Seconds later, a cacophony erupted, feral barking, the crash of metal bins, shouts echoing, as Morris's men chased phantom chaos. Now, Sarah urged. They ran slipping down the hall past storage bays toward the exit until a figure stepped from the dark. Lieutenant Richard Morris. Gun raised. You've led me far enough, he said. Hand over the backpack. Maybe I'll let the girl live. Sarah moved Lily behind her. It's over, Morris. I have the evidence. Emma documented everything. Your payments from Blackwood, the cover-ups, the bodies. His smirk didn't waver. And now you'll die trying to save a kid you just met. You kidnapped her, Connor. You're unstable. You'll try to shoot your way out, and I'll have no choice but to put you down. But then motion. A blur behind Morris. Atlas. The dog launched himself into the air with terrifying grace, slamming into Morris's arm, just as the weapon fired. The shot ricocheted harmlessly off a metal wall as Morris crumpled to the ground, beneath 80 pounds of snarling justice. Atlas hold, Sarah commanded. The dog froze, mid-bite, perfect restraint, perfect training. Sirens screamed in the distance. You won't win, Morris hissed. Blackwood has friends in high places. Not anymore, came a new voice. Agent Diana Williams stepped into view, her gun trained on Morris. Lieutenant Richard Morris, you're under arrest for conspiracy obstruction and the murder of Emma and Matthew Reynolds. David Martinez appeared beside her holding a recorder. We got every word. Morris's face drained of color. From behind, Lily rushed to Atlas, wrapping her arms around his neck. You did it, she whispered. You kept me safe. Just like Mommy said. Sarah knelt beside them, her voice thick. Your mom would be proud. Both of you were so brave. Agent Williams nodded toward the exit. We need to get them to a secure location. There are still loose ends in Blackwood's network. Sarah rose, lifting Lily into her arms. Dr. Martinez has a cabin, quiet, safe. Together they walked into the night. Lily nestled against Sarah's shoulder, one hand always reaching back, fingers buried in the warm, steady fur of her guardian. The cabin sat nestled deep in Mount Hood National Forest, surrounded by towering pines and the soft hush of morning wind. Smoke curled from the chimney. Inside, the scent of pancakes and fresh coffee mingled with pine and clean mountain air. It was sanctuary. For now. Lily slept beneath thick quilts. Mr. Whiskers tucked beneath one arm, Emma's locket still clasped in her hand. At the foot of her bed, Atlas lay, curled ears twitching in rhythm, with her breathing, his eyes opening every few minutes to scan the room. Outside, Sarah stood on the porch, sipping from a steaming mug, watching dawn spill gold over the treetops. Her phone buzzed. A text from Agent Williams. Morris is talking. Blackwood denied bail. Safe to bring Lily for statement tomorrow. She stepped inside quietly. Dr. Martinez looked up from the stove. Is she ready? She asked. Sarah shook her head. I don't know. But she's stronger than we give her credit for. And she has Atlas. As if summoned, the German shepherd trotted in from his perimeter check and paused beside Lily's door, pressing his nose to the frame before settling into a protective sit. He hadn't let her out of his sight. Sarah had spent the last 2 days poring over Emma's cache of evidence. Transactions, audio logs, photographs. Emma had mapped the corruption like a general planning for war, because she was. Blackwood's network ran deep, 2 state judges, a sitting representative, senior officers within Portland PD, and one frightened mother had exposed it all. She had built a defense, not out of weapons, but out of preparation, out of love, out of trust, in a stuffed cat, a USB, a hidden passage, and a dog. That morning, as the sun rose over the mountains, Sarah leaned against the doorframe and watched Lily stir awake. Her first words weren't for the adults in the room. They were for Atlas. Good boy, she whispered, reaching for him. He came to her without hesitation, head low, tail sweeping the wooden floor. And as she rested against his warm fur, her eyes drifted shut once more, not from fear or exhaustion, but from safety. She was no longer running. She was home.